Was your day okay? Hello, everyone. We are Why Is That? And welcome to our podcast series that often begins with why questions based on the first principles thinking method. This approach offers you diverse perspectives on various life issues. To truly live life with us, let's dive into this episode. 16 years ago, one afternoon on his way home from work, a man in his 50s named Lamb saw a crowd gathered around a dump. Curious, he approached and was stunned. On the ground was a baby no one dared to touch, no one believed could survive. Something suddenly surged within him, compelling him to rush forward, embrace the tiny 1 kg infant, and run straight to the hospital. A month later, again on his way home from work, Mr. Lamb heard a cry from the roadside grass. And just like that, he had a second child. Exactly 1 year later, Mr. Lamb received a call from a young man. This man knew about Mr. Lamb raising 2 abandoned babies and told him that a mother in the bed next to his wife's would be abandoning her child the next day. At first, Mr. Lamb shook his head, refusing. 2 children at home was already more than he ever imagined. But the man called twice, then 5 times. Unable to ignore it any longer, the single man rushed to the hospital and took in the child just in time, right as the baby was about to be abandoned. He became the father of 3. Time continued to etch lines on the hair of the man who earned his living as a security guard. Like a mission, children kept finding him. Babies from anywhere on doorsteps, by the roadside, from cemeteries, or the desolate garbage dump. Some with deformities that broke hearts. Anytime, anywhere, Mr. Lamb would rush to take them in. Outsiders, accustomed to gossip and judgment, often wondered why this man, without a wife or children, with an elderly mother and a meager security guard salary, would concern himself with others, daring to raise hundreds of children like this. The reason was simple, yet they couldn't grasp it. It was pure kindness, pure humanity. To this day, Mr. Lamb's shelter, along with his son Fuck, has housed hundreds of children. All these children came to Mr. Lamb for one reason: they no longer had parents. So many infertile couples yearn desperately for a child to fill their home with joy, trying endlessly without success. Yet, there are fathers and mothers who find it in their hearts to abandon their own flesh and blood. While we cannot entirely blame those parents, as they may have endured extreme suffering themselves, abandoning a child is something I beg everyone never to do. Please think carefully, protect yourselves, and protect those innocent lives. Mr. Lamb stands at his doorstep, looking down at the yard where the children play. A small child clings tightly to his side. He just hopes another year will pass without any more children calling him Dad. That would mean no more children are abandoned in this world. In truth, people like Mr. Lamb didn't choose this path, rather, he was chosen. I believe there were many times he must have asked himself what he was doing, whether it was right, why he was doing this. But then he surely found his answer. If not him, who would save these babies? Who would get them birth certificates? Who would love them? These children are so small, and he simply cannot bear to ignore them, to see them suffer and leave. And so, his work and the work of those who support him continues. That day, among the children playing in the yard, a tiny child stood up boldly and declared, "I am Dad Lamb's child. Dad picked me and my siblings up from the cemetery, from the dump. Dad got me a birth certificate and named me How. Dad said I am a kind child and I will have a good future. I have a home, I have a dad, I have siblings. I will continue on a path with Dad and my siblings, a path with hope, not lonely like when I was born." That day, I wanted to give up, Teacher Deem confessed. It was his first assignment, leaving the lowlands for the remote mountains, trudging along a winding trail nearly 40 kilometers long. Teacher Deem felt disheartened more than once. Just look at it. The path was so narrow, barely wide enough for a motorcycle. One wrong move and the bike would lose balance, slide forward, and crash. After a while, he'd have to park his bike at the foot of a slope and walk for nearly an hour to reach the school. Some days he missed home, but couldn't call because the highland village was hidden behind mountain ranges. The schools never got phone signal. He'd have to travel dozens of kilometers to find a signal. Sometimes, he had to wake up at 2 or 3 a.m. to hit the road and make it to school for the first class of the week. Those were times when he'd wait for hours, the road still overhead, and the precarious abyss always nearby. Winter arrived, and the biting cold swept in. The chill of Dong Van, Hajiang Highlands, was unlike anywhere else. On winter days, temperatures sometimes dropped below 0 degrees Celsius. Breaths instantly turned into thin wisps of smoke that vanished into the harsh cold before they could even warm. Winds from the mountaintops pierced through every layer of clothing, cutting deep into the skin. The frozen, rocky paths were treacherous. Every step Teacher Deem took on his journey to class carried the added burden of the weather. His old, tattered sports shoes weren't enough to keep him warm. Cold water seeped through every crack, making his feet numb, sometimes losing all sensation. But even in that bleak scene, Teacher Deem knew he wasn't the one suffering the most. Look at those children, he thought. Adults can endure it, but these skinny kids in their thin clothes, snot running down their faces, hands and feet purple, cracked, bleeding. Oh God, it's haunting, unbearable to see. Some children even had to carry their younger siblings to school because their parents were working, and there was no one home to look after the two little ones. They'd wrap themselves in sacks and plastic bags to shield from the wind. Upon arrival, every child would be trembling, dirty, with large patches of chapped skin, yet still smiling. Can we have hot instant noodles today, teacher? Temporary bamboo fences couldn't keep the frost from pouring into the classroom. On those days, teachers and students would light a small bonfire, warming themselves while studying. It was normal for Highland students to drop out. If it was too cold, they'd stay home, especially during bamboo shoot season or planting season, when they had to follow their parents to the fields, into the forest to harvest bamboo shoots and help the family. It was only when he heard the sounds of students in the classroom that Teacher Deem felt relieved. The image of the students, bareheaded and barefoot, shivering violently, faces turning blue from the 1 or 2 degrees Celsius winter cold, yet still coming to class. Teacher Deem knew he couldn't give up. Time flowed on. Teacher Deem has been dedicated to teaching for over a decade now. Not only teaching, but Teacher Deem also takes on the role of a father and an older brother. On cold days, he would ask for old clothes from the lowlands, collecting them into small gifts for his students. His meals were sometimes just a pack of instant noodles with hot water, but he always prioritized every grain of rice, every piece of cake for the children. Many rainy nights, he would visit each student's home, navigating slippery streams to safely bring them to class. He confided, "Seeing them study so diligently breaks my heart. Every letter I teach is a hope to help them escape poverty." These teachers from the lowlands initially came to the highlands to teach out of duty, but then their affection for the mountains deepened, seeing the village as their home and the students as their own children. Only with deep love for their profession and compassion for children can teachers overcome such hardships to bring literacy to the people here. Thanks to the teachers, more children learn to read, and with more people literate, poverty, hunger, and outdated customs will gradually be eradicated. 5 or 6 dogs in a metal cage. Some barked loudly, others lay flat, exhausted after struggling desperately to escape but failing. One looked at me, a long, pleading gaze that broke my heart. I walked past the truck carrying the cage and asked if I could buy the dogs. At first, I thought I'd only be able to rescue one dog, but then I heard the whole group crying out like heartbroken sobs. I couldn't bear it. I gave the man all the money I had in my pocket and brought all the dogs home. My journey with these 4-legged friends began then. Ms. Mai's yard, in a small corner of the Mekong Delta, also has many dogs. Most of the dogs and cats Ms. Mai rescues carry both physical and emotional scars. Some were injured in accidents, some were beaten, others were abandoned by their owners due to severe illness and lack of funds for treatment. Their bewildered eyes, fearful glances, and trembling gaits haunted her in the early days of this journey. But instead of avoiding it, she chose to open her heart. She silently healed each one, from their external wounds to their inner fears. Building an animal rescue shelter is certainly not easy for a petite woman like her. With her meager worker's income, she also has to support her 2 children's education, not to mention the significant burden of caring for and treating the dogs and cats. Outsiders look on, not understanding why this woman chose such a difficult path. Some even mocked her, saying she was wasting time and money. But Ms. Mai was not discouraged. She always believed she could still do good for these voiceless creatures. Since I started rescuing and raising dogs and cats, I've lost friends. Some say I'm crazy for not helping people, but instead picking up dogs and cats. But I have no regrets. Seeing the little ones in pain, I can't stand it. Humans or animals, everyone deserves to be loved. It's just fate that I get to save animals. If I could save people, I would too. Nearly 200 four-legged friends lie obediently in the modest 22-square-meter yard. Outside, rain and wind lash down, but the little ones have a warm shelter from the sun and rain. Their steady breathing is the most sincere thank you, echoing forever in the heart of that kind woman. In Truanglong Commune, Kentho City, an old, dilapidated house with a leaky roof and leaning pillars is home to Grandma Kwan, over 70 years old and blind in both eyes, and her 11-year-old granddaughter, Huang, who was born with Down syndrome. Over 3 decades ago, poverty forced Grandma Kwan's family to leave their hometown for Bin Duong to work as laborers. But poverty clung to them, and their health steadily declined. 10 years ago, when her eyes began to ache, Grandma, lacking money, simply endured the pain, hesitant to go to the hospital. By the time the pain became unbearable and she sought examination, it was too late. Complications from glaucoma had stolen her sight, plunging her into eternal darkness. Returning to Kentho, she lived in blindness and solitude as her children, all poor, scattered in different directions. Little Huang, her granddaughter born with Down syndrome, suffered many disadvantages from birth. Her congenital condition prevented normal development and especially left her without a father's or mother's love. Her mother, due to a misguided love affair, gave birth to her but couldn't be a pillar of support. In 2018, when Huang was 6, her mother left her at a pagoda and disappeared. Hearing the news, Grandma Kwan and her husband were heartbroken and immediately sought her out to raise her. Life for the grandmother and granddaughter was far from easy. Grandma Kwan fumbled her way through housework in the dark, while Huang clung to her, a source of comfort yet also a challenge for the frail old woman. Even so, at that time, she still had her husband by her side to share difficulties and be a strong moral support. But not long ago, he suddenly passed away, leaving her to bear everything alone. Huang still innocently calls Grandma Kwan Mama, even though Grandma has tried many times to teach her to say, Grandma. But like a child's innocent habit, Huang forgets soon after being reminded, and Grandma Kwan can't bear to correct her anymore. The word, Mama, is now the greatest comfort in her lonely and uncertain days. In that home, despite countless deprivations, there is one thing no one can take away: the love between grandmother and granddaughter. It is a warm light that illuminates their 2 unfortunate lives, helping them stand strong through challenging times, so that every morning, Huang's clear laughter still rings out, dispelling the darkness that envelops their lives. Many people advised Grandma to send Huang to a care center for children with disabilities to ease her burden, but she resolutely refused. For her, Huang is her flesh and blood, a small glimmer of hope in this unfortunate life. Another old year passes, a new one approaches. New chapters will always have miraculous beginnings, and we hope that peace will continue to protect these kind, warm-hearted people, full of love. They are not heroes in sparkling glory, they are heroes in simple things, with countless noble gestures. Kindness and compassion are the threads that connect humanity to the world. In a society sometimes consumed by busyness and indifference, the stories of these individuals serve as a reminder that anyone can create miracles, even starting with small acts. There are tiny things that always make us marvel at their true magnitude, just as Den and Kim long wrote in their song. I see yellow flowers on green grass, a joyful day begins. The sky is clear and bright for smiles to shine. Hey dear, lean in and listen to life's sweet sounds. Whenever people know to love each other with faith and care, cherishing the tiny things they give. So tiny, yet they win hearts.